Hello, it's David here, and it's another week, another video, you know, that's the sort of thing, as it goes. Team Fortress 2 again. Due to the Steam sale, which we've had over the past couple of weeks, well, not the past couple of weeks, but the past kind of 10 days, I've bought too many games, to be quite frank, but I got some cool game footage coming in future videos, but for now it's Team Fortress 2. Anyways, as you probably suspected by the title of the video, I decided on something very interesting to talk about, on how game engines work, because when I was, obviously people who have been following this channel know that I'm making a game engine at the moment, and it's been a huge learning experience for me. I mean, like massive. I've learned so much, it's not even funny, and I've had to kind of learn most of it from trial and error and experiments on certain things to see what can be done and what can't be done. But if you search the internet how a game engine works, you don't actually get an awful lot. I mean, probably the best place to learn it in depth would be like a book, but I mean, like, those books have several hundred pages, they're very complicated, and they're expensive actually as well. So what I decided to do was to make this video, or I don't know how this video is going to go, but possibly multiple videos, kind of explaining roughly how game engines work behind the scenes, sort of the part that doesn't get shown by people, or that doesn't get talked about, because like, if you're not a programmer or you don't know exactly how game engines work, whenever you've asked anyone, it's probably been sort of, oh well, they have lots of subsystems, they do rendering, one system does audio, one system does input, blah 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 blah. And that's true, but when people told me that, it never kind of taught me what do you call it? How sort of stuff works behind the scene and how the engine is kept running, and the stuff that people don't sort of talk about very much. So that's what this video is about. The first thing I'm going to talk about is what I call the heart of a game engine. Actually, first, let's just say, not all games need game engines. I'm just going to put that out there. What a game engine does is basically, it's a collection of systems that remove the effort of having to do really core computer system stuff by the game developer, so they can focus on actually making the game rather than doing technical stuff. But anyways, right in the center of a game engine is the heart, or I call it the heart. Programmers and fellow engine developers know it as the main game loop. And this bit of code in my engine, it's nothing. It's about 15 lines of code. It's so small, but it is the absolute core of the engine. It's so important, and it's actually the beating heart of the engine. If you were to consider frames as beats, this is the heart of the engine, and each time it loops around, and each time it does a cycle, would be called a frame. And what it essentially does is it loops until the program ends, and in every frame it generally does two things. Actually, it generally does three things. First of all, it checks for input, so it checks that you haven't put your finger on a keyboard or clicked on something on the screen or anything like that. Input, basically. It checks for input, and then it updates the engine, so all the things like moving stuff around, what do you call it? Moving stuff around, doing AI, all sort of stuff like that. And then the last thing it does is it renders everything. So it sort of goes in that sort of system. Events like input, update, and then render. And then those three calls basically just domino effect through the entire engine, and they cause lots of other stuff to be called. Like, for instance, in my game engine, all of those calls link back to the main sort of header. Well, I wouldn't call it a header, that's not a good name for it. More like the brain of the game, where everything gets managed. And those then, my engine has an entity management system, which a lot of engines do, and what that basically means is it keeps libraries of, or it keeps sort of references to all the objects in the game at the moment, and then it can loop through them. So if you sort of have experience with Unity, you'll know that all the scripts have an update function in them. And basically what my engine does is, in the update function that the main loop calls, it iterates through all of the objects in the scene and calls update on every single one. And that just, as I said, it just domino effects through the entire engine and causes everything to happen in that one frame. And then when it's finished, obviously it loops over again to do the same thing again. And then in each sort of update, I'm running out of time here. This might need to be a two-part video, but anyways, in each update function of each entity, they do certain things. So they may react to things, or they may move, or anything like that, really. And all of that is carried out using the subsystems that people talk about, like the audio, the AI, movement, rendering, all of this stuff. The rendering I kind of want to exclude, because the rendering is kind of a huge deal, and it's done in its own, it has its own function call, obviously called the render function, the render call, and that kind of does all the rendering. But the update function is where everything else happens. And for example, if you in the update function you wanted to play a sound, you'd ask the audio subsystem of the engine to play a sound during that time, that frame, if you will. And so if you really think about it down to the heart of the game engine, the main game loop, that really kind of simplifies it for me when I think about it in that way, and how it kind of beats. Each frame is a beat, and it carries out objects, carries out tasks. Carries out tasks every frame. It really kind of simplifies the idea of how it works to an understandable level. But anyways, the video is coming to an end. So I'm going to actually continue this video next week. If you don't like it. But anyways, comment if you like the video. Comment and tell me, and I'll make more of them. And anyways, bye for now.